Hi everybody, this is a video overview of this knife. And this knife is the Gareth Bolt Small Shamwari. And this is a knife that Gareth made after I posted a review of his regular Shamwari. The regular Shamwari is a really great flipper. It's a front flipper. There's a very nice smooth front flipper. It had this over travel stop, the over travel plate here right under the pivot screw. It did not have a deep pocket clip, but the entire knife was very nicely done. It was N690 steel and had a titanium slab handle, and I thought that was a great knife. I pointed out a couple of things in the review that I didn't like, and about 8 months after the review, I got an instant message or a direct message on Instagram from Gareth saying, I finished the knife. And I was like, well, what knife are you talking about? And as it turns out, he took every single thing from my review that I said was a drawback on the Shamwari, and he changed the knife, and he made this knife. And this knife is probably the best EDC knife I own, and it's one of my favorite knives I've ever handled. And I'm going to go through probably in a little more detail than needs to be done, but just because it's fun, I'm going to go through all the details. First, let's show you how big this is compared to some of the other things that are out there. So this is a Blade HQ Special. This is an exclusive Skyline in Jade or Natural G10. As you can see, it's significantly bigger than the Shamwari is. This is a cool knife too. Let's see, another knife that a lot of people have. This is the Benchmade Mini Grip. This is the 555-1 HG, which is the upgraded one with the 20 CV steel. And this is the Spyderco Dragonfly. And not coincidentally, these two knives are about the exact same size. As you can see, let's see if I can pop this thing open. There's a ton more curve to the Dragonfly. But the blade is very similar in size, and the handle is very similar in size. These are both really awesome knives, by the way. So this is a small knife. It's under 3 inches. The blade is exactly 2.75 inches. Let me see if I can get this to work. There's a tape measure. And one of the reasons I'm doing this, and I don't normally do this, is because this is the only knife like this. So, and there you go. It's off a little bit in the camera, but the tip is right at the end. It doesn't look like it in the camera. So we're right at like 2.75 inches, and that's one thing that I think is really cool about the knife, because in my opinion, the going just over 3 inches is probably not worth it. Like, you either go right under 3 inches, like 2.99 inches, like the A.G. Russell CS2, or you go way over the 3 inches, because if you're right at 3 inches, there's a bunch of states where that's illegal. Over 3 inches is illegal. So going at the 3.25 inches doesn't give you a lot more utility over a 2.99 inch blade, but it gets you in hot water in states that you wouldn't otherwise. So I actually find that going well under 3 inches, like a 1/4 inch under 3 inches, is still fine. I can still cut apples. I've cut apples with this a bunch. And it does a lot of the tasks that I use my knives to do every day. And I don't feel like it's too small. It fits pretty well in the hand. I have medium-sized glove hands. So it's not a full 4-finger grip, but it's plenty enough to get some control over. So let's start and go through the details of the knife. So first of all, Gareth upgraded the blade steel. Instead of N690, which is not a bad steel by any means, he made this one out of M390. M390 is one of my 1 or 2 favorite steels in the entire world. It has a high hardness, it has a high toughness, it has very good corrosion resistance. The M390 equivalent steel, so M390, 20CV, and CTS 204P, they all have very similar chemistries, and they are all probably the best all-around steels on the market. If you want something harder, you can get something like ZDP 189 or M4, but if you're looking for that steel that just does everything well, then one of the M390 or M390 equivalents would probably be the way to go. M390 is made by Buller Uddeholm, which is a European steel company, and it's extremely clean, extremely pure steel. As you can see, this has the grind itself is a satin finish, and let's see if we can zoom in here and get that nice and tight. There's a problem because there we go. And see, it's got this horizontal finish on it, and the flat is actually left as almost a perfect mirror polish, so you can see the camera reflecting there. And it's driving my camera crazy. So that was one thing that was nice. The grind is different, the flats are different, the finish on the blade is different instead of bead blasted. It still has a hollow grind to it. You can feel the nice hollow grind. It's a very, very nice hollow grind. And the blade steel is just wonderful. A couple other upgrades on the blade. One of the things that I mentioned, and I think this is probably universally true for me, is I just like a crown spine. And by that, I mean the spine is rounded over. See, like you can compare the spine on. This is just flat cut, and this one, it's rounded over all the way. Chris Reeve does this on all of his knives. And the overall effect is that it makes the knife nicer in your pocket because you don't have this really square edge of steel in your pocket. It's also nicer in your hand when you go to pull it out of your pocket because you don't have to worry about the 90-degree angle right there when you grab the knife. So that was a really nice touch. As you can see, the geometry of the blade, just a little bit over, but that's more than enough to get that really awesome, really smooth front flipper action. I have become a convert. If I had my druthers, I'd rather have a front flipper well executed than a traditional flipper like the one you find on the Skyline. The Skyline flipper, people have just been making them more often, so they're probably, I don't know if they're any more difficult to make or less difficult, but these are much more common. And I can see why. They're pretty simple and pretty simple to use. But once you get this flick motion down, this is just as fast, if not faster. And your hand, as opposed to being like this, and then you got to sort of convert your hand back to the grip. It's ready. It's already there. You know, you got these 3 fingers and you're popping it open. These 2 fingers go right back, and you're in the cutting position already, as opposed to like doing some finger gymnastics when you're, and then you got to kind of redo that. A couple things that he did on the handle. I had mentioned in my review that I like the slab titanium, but I would have preferred it to be rounded. And you can see here that there is some curve to the handle. It kind of curves over there. So this is a contoured titanium handle. It feels wonderful in the pocket. There's a chamfer here and there's a chamfer here, which sort of lay off or lay down those really crisp edges. This edge right here and this edge right here are also, they're not chamfered, but they're very rounded over. So the whole knife is just very round in the hand, other than this position, other than this edge right here. The spine is rounded over and the handle itself is rounded over. One other thing that he did differently on this knife that I really, really like is he used a Torx bit. He had a proprietary driver on the pivot screw in the full-size Shamwari, and it just, you know, it's not bad, but if I had my druthers, I'd rather it be something that I can use and I don't have to buy some special driver for. You know, like this knife, I can user service it at home. I don't have to, you know, pay $30 or $20 for special proprietary driver. One thing that I like to do on knives, especially knives that are flippers, is I do usually, not every time, but usually I do take and tune the pivot to exactly what I want and then put a little Loctite. I use blue 242 Loctite. And I've done that in this knife, and the end result is that blade is going to stay right where it is. The flipping action is going to stay exactly the same from each time I flip it. And that way I'm not, you know, I don't have to think about it. It's just I pick up this knife and the muscle memory kicks in and pops the knife open. So that was another thing, the Torx bit. It's just, it's nice. This is a big fat Torx bit, so unlike some of the ones that you find, like, look at the Torx bit there. That thing is tiny. You're not going to find this at an Ace Hardware. Like, if you're on vacation and your knife gets jumbled up or something, which, believe it or not, I haven't had to happen to me twice. The chance that you find this size Torx bit at like an Ace Hardware or a Walmart, It's not going to happen. If they have any torque spits at all, they'll have this torque spit. I think this is a T10 or a T8. These are really common. I mean, its torque spit is not terribly common to begin with, but it is a very, very common torque spit. If you're going to have torque spit, they're going to have this size. So those are most of the changes on the knife, and I'm saving one because it's the Grand Finale. But a couple other little notes here. This is a collar around the pivot, and this is a domed screw. The other thing that's really nice about this is that this is fixed into place, so I don't need to use a tool over here and a tool over here. When I took the pivot apart to put the Loctite in, just put the screw in, unscrewed it, and that was it. The domed pivot screw here looks really cool, and that little tiny, thin blue collar is just perfect. Love it, love it. All right, all the details. Now, this is the thing that I think probably everyone who's watching this video has been waiting for. This is it. There you go. This is the best pocket clip I've ever seen. This is better than the Chris Reeve double dip pocket clip on the Sebenza. This is better than the wire clip on the Dragonfly. This is better than the clip on the Nundi, which is a really great clip. This is the best pocket clip I've ever seen, and here's why. It is a deep carry, over the top pocket clip. It's got good spring tension. I'm not like wrenching on it to make it move or anything. And it flush mounts on blind screws. See, the screws actually come in from the inside, and he screws it in from the inside, and then that means that the pivot, or that the underneath the pocket clip is really nice and smooth. When you look at like the pocket clip here on the Dragonfly, that bolt sometimes gets lodged on your pants, and you can kind of have a little bit of a where fabric gets sort of stuck in between the bolt and the clip. And the clip, as it is, without the bolt, if it was flush, that's plenty of room. You can pull it on, pull it off, and it works fine. But here, unlike just about any other deep carry pocket clip I've ever seen, underneath the pocket clip is flush. It is flush. And then look, you can see this really cool detail here on the back. The clip looks very clean on the back. And it has all of the spring you'd want, but it's still a sculpted titanium pocket clip. It's the best pocket clip I've ever seen, period. So when you add all of those things together, the slightly reduced size, the better blade steel, the user-operable pivot screw, the crowned spine, if I didn't say it already, the new and better steel, this domed pivot, this is, in my opinion, for me, this is the perfect EDC knife. It does everything I want. It does it exceptionally well. It carries exceptionally well, and it looks awesome. It doesn't have that like way too pretty look that you wouldn't want to use it, and as you can see, I have been using and carrying it. It does have snail trails on it because I use it on a pretty regular basis. My setup is pretty cool because it is now small enough to fit in here, and so you can either fit it in with the clip out, or it's thin enough that you can fit it in with the clip in. And then there you go. And its little buddy is the always awesome Mushan Aeon Mark III. This is a great light. And the two of them together in the Scout Leatherworks pocket protector, that's just, for me, I think this is as good as my EDC is ever going to get right here. With cost no object, you know, this is probably, I don't know, $500, $400, and $100 or $50 for the sheet. So almost $1,000 worth of gear, but every single thing in this is exactly the way I want it, and so I'm super duper happy. This is a great knife. It is one of the very few things that I looked forward to getting, and then every day since I got it, it has been more pleasing and surprising than I thought it would be. It gets better every day. I'm like super happy. When I reach into my pocket, I'm like, oh yeah, I got it with me. It's great. So that was a video overview, probably a little too long, of the Gareth Bull Shamwari 2.75 inch. This is my favorite knife.